everybody to the Winnipeg Committee for Safety for Wednesday, January 28th, 2026. First, I'd like to acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis, and our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40. First up, do we need to move the minutes to the last?
No minutes.
No minutes? Okay, perfect. So we can move right on into reports. Before we get, sorry.
We'll move a motion for the remote participation.
Oh, we have to move a motion for remote participation. Carrie moves. Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion is carried. Before we get into reports, I do want us to go around and introduce ourselves. I know that we have Melanie that's joining us for the very first time, so I want to welcome her to the committee, and maybe we'll just get started with Melanie, and you can just share a little bit about yourself, and so we all get to know you and you get to know our names. Melanie?
Perfect. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Melanie Murchison. I have a PhD in law from Queen's University in Belfast, Northern Ireland. I'm a Winnipegger originally, and I'm so happy to be back in Winnipeg. I'm an instructor too in the Department of Criminology at the University of Manitoba. And I also am cross-appointed with Robson Hall Law School.
Okay, thank you very much and welcome. You're going to love the committee. We all get along really, really great. So, all right. Okay, next up, Ileana, do you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Eliana. I'm the Senior Program and Policy Analyst for Manitoba Justice's Crime Prevention Team here in Public Safety.
Rocky, can you hear us?
Hi, I'm a retired provincial court judge. I retired mandatorily a couple of years ago. I sit on a couple of boards now, and I'm trying to just maximize my volunteer time with undertakings like this one. And I know from reading who Dr. Murchison is.
Oh, there you go. Jess?
Hi there. My name is Jesse Andrushko. I've been on the committee now for, I think, 5 years. I work at APTN in downtown Winnipeg on the online team. And yeah, I live in the old St. Vital area. I'm a citizen member.
Thank you. Now the other Jess. We have two Jesses.
Hi, I'm Jess Smith. I work at Thrive Community Support Circle. I'm community engagement and fund development at this time. And I live in Elmwood, and I'm also here as a community citizen member as well.
Helen? Who's next?
Hey folks, Callan Davey. By day, I am an employee at SKIP. I work on the partnerships team there. I spend a lot of time in the evenings, though, with my family and volunteering for a few different boards and committees in the city. And I believe this is my second year as a citizen member.
Yeah, I guess we'll start with you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Happy New Year to everyone. And a special welcome to Dr. Melanie Mitchelson. My son's taking law in Edmonton, I'll tell you. I just got back from there. Yeah, first year guy. So we're excited to pick your brain maybe, and you and Rocky, that'd be wonderful. This is probably my 11th year on the committee. I had 2 stints in this committee, one for 9 years, and now we're working on my second year of the second go. I don't know, I spent a lot of years in security world. I'm a Winnipegger, proudly Winnipegger, do a lot of work in the hoping to end homelessness. Yeah, and I think it's a great committee, as the councillor said. I think we generally get along. So thank you everyone for all you do for the city of Winnipeg.
Hi everyone, I'm Kayla Purdy. I'm with the Community Development Division with the City of Winnipeg. And I work with my colleague Greg McPherson on the Safe Winnipeg initiative. So that brings me here today.
I'm Tracy Proctor. I'm the coordinator of the Winnipeg Committee for Safety. I was a citizen member for 5 years before I joined temporarily as the coordinator, and now I'm going into my 3rd year of doing that, but it's not temporary anymore. And yeah, I will echo, I appreciate all of you and everything you do, and welcome, Melanie. I think you're going to be a good addition to our group.
I'm Councillor Cindy Gilbert, and I represent the Daniel McIntyre ward. And I'm also chair of the UN Safe Cities Initiative for women. So it's particularly UN Safe Cities that looks at violence and sexual violence towards women and girls in public spaces, and the Winnipeg Committee for Safety. So I know that Dr. Melanie will be interested in some of the other work that we're going to be doing as well. So, but this all coincides. We know that if we want to make Winnipeg safe, it does start with women and children. And so happy that you're all here supporting that work, and we can work together on it. And I'm just going to let Jade quickly introduce herself too. Jade, our wonderful clerk, Jade.
My name is Jade Noctegal. I'm an assistant committee clerk and I work with the city clerk's department.
And she helps us here, making sure everything runs smoothly. So thanks, everybody. So today we got kind of a tight agenda because I did want to give us time to go through a few things and make sure that we have time to ask questions before we approve these plans. So first up on our reports is the 2026 schedule of meetings for the Winnipeg Committee for Safety. So Carrie, just so you know, we do meet every, I think you know that now, but we meet every formally we meet every second month, and informally every month. So, right? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
So we meet every month,
Yeah,
but formally every second month. Right?
we have 10 meetings a year, and so this is our first formal meeting of the year, even though it had to be classed as a special meeting for the purpose of just trying to get it scheduled. And so we will approve 4 more dates that we're going to meet formally, which means our meetings we're being recorded right now and people can watch us via YouTube. We meet at City Hall, and every member has the opportunity to attend in person for these meetings or via Zoom. So once the weather's nicer and you want to come downtown for some lunch, we'll be glad to meet you in person. And I will, after we approve these 4 formal dates, I'm going to fill in some informal dates and send everyone a list for the year, so you'll know what day and what time all the meetings are.
All right, does somebody want to move the schedule of meetings? Okay, Rocky? Okay, do we need a seconder? Just checking, no? Okay, Rocky, all in favor? Okay, motion is carried. Now we're moving on to item number 2, which is the Winnipeg Committee for Safety operating budget. And I'm going to give it off to Tracy to just go over it with us.
All right, I did send everyone the copy of the budget that I proposed for this year, and was excited to find out from Jade that we actually got all of the money that we asked for. We asked for a $33,000 increase. I thought we only got 20,000, but we got the whole 33, it turns out. So that's very encouraging because we have been in a situation the last few years where our budget has been getting decreased. I feel like I want to say that was maybe by accident, but it was making things difficult for us. So now that we have a workable amount and can hopefully keep increasing that every year, we can do some more work that we want to do. So the first item on the budget line was communications and community outreach, which for the most part is the production and distribution of the Who Do I Call cards. And those cards, as we've discussed, have exploded in popularity over the last few years since the pandemic. And the small amount we did have budgeted for them, it was nowhere near the requests that we get. And so the $12,000 I've allotted is based on roughly what we spent last year to produce those cards. So I do find, though, that when I have done a mail out of them, the organizations that receive them tend to share them with others, I guess, because it leads to a big increase of requests. Like the last batch I sent out in June, within a month, I had more requests than for the original mail out. So, and I just want to say, Jess Smith, that is the cutest baby you have there.
What the heck?
Youngest member of the Winnipeg Committee for Safety.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, what's that?
What be some age rules we're breaking? I don't know. Labor laws.
Is that your grandchild, but perhaps, oh,
Yes.
nice, oh, what a sweetie. Anyways, back to the budget. In the education and training line, something that we have had difficulty doing because of the lack of a budget is to host some community safety events, do some kind of community outreach, anything like that. So there's, depending on the size of what we might want to do and the cost of that, I kind of estimated 2 to 3 events, but we'll see as we plan stuff, you know, what that might be and what it'll cost. But I think that we would have enough money to do that. Also, I've upped our budget for meeting costs. We were kind of to the point where even to have lunch at a meeting was a little bit difficult for us. We just didn't have the budget for that. So that'll give us, you know, money to do the meetings, as well as if we want to do some subcommittee or working group stuff, which, you know, I would like to do, and we'll talk more about that later in the meeting. We have a little bit of opportunity for that as well. The office expenditures, as I mentioned in that, if you read the document I sent, and thank you, Rocky, for asking for clarification on how my contract works. So my cell phone is paid for by the committee every year, as well as my parking if I have to come down to City Hall to do anything. So last year that was $2,000 and some roughly, as well as other assorted office expenses. And so I just wanted to make sure I put enough to cover all of that. So I think that should do. And then the last line was my contract fee, which, as I mentioned, has been at $50,000 for the last 5 years. And because of our tight budget, I didn't feel it was possible to ask for an increase. So I'd like to ask for a 10% increase to that, which then would actually work out to 2% per year if you looked at maybe getting a more regular increase. So that brings us to $84,500, which is the total budgeted amount we have for this year.
And just on that, just so everyone knows, because I don't want it to look like she's giving herself praise, she actually gets paid less than most of the coordinators at the City of Winnipeg. And it's a really small fee compared to what other contractors are awarded. So it really is, there's not much of a difference. It went from 50 to 55, but I just wanted you to know it's something that I fully believe in, making sure that she gets paid well. She's done a lot of great work here at the city, and I for sure have appreciated her work. So I don't want everyone to feel like she's just giving herself a raise. It's actually something I'm kind of pushing forward and asking her to do, because I do think her work has been invaluable. So just so you know, and she's one of the least paid out of all of our coordinators on our other committees.
So that being said, can we increase that by taking monies away from any of those other line items to get Tracy to par? Doesn't sound fair to me that you should work for less than everybody else
Well,
and do way more. I don't know about that.
I still feel like I'm being treated fairly, you know, but when I did look at, you know, through talking to the previous coordinator, Crystal, that did this job, and sort of what she was being paid and how many hours she worked for that amount of money. And, you know, there's, you know, things I appreciate about this job, like that I can do most of it from home. I can make my own hours for the most part. Even the fact that I can, you know, in some ways decide the kinds of things that we're going to work on and try and stay on top of what's happening with, you know, crime and community safety in Winnipeg. I like this work. So I feel like I'd be happy to, if what I would like to do is try and get increases, smaller increases every year to stay more on par with that. And that if something about the work changed, then, you know, that could be considered.
Don't fight me on giving you more money.
I know, yeah. But, you know,
Can I add something to this discussion? I look at it this way, that you're responsible basically year round for an $84,000 budget. Well, that's not a lot of money, but you are responsible for this committee that has a statutory duty to produce results, to produce work on behalf of paid politicians. There's a responsibility factor there that I think is not acknowledged by the $50,000 stipend now. And to say 55,000, is sort of like 2% a year. It's not really, because you never got the 2% in the last, few years. So without knowing what the right number is, $55,000 is the wrong number for the work that you're doing on behalf of a bunch of volunteers over here, and then over there, a statutory body that's expecting results.
So what I might do right now, just because there's talking about your compensation, I might just ask you to leave the room.
Okay, yeah.
So we can have a little bit of a discussion without you.
I will add too, though, that there, like, a little bit of a conundrum to this contract work is, and I will say, it is not my only form of income. I retired from Manitoba Public Insurance 10 years ago, and so I have my civil service superannuation amount I get every month.
Nothing to do with it.
No, but I am getting taxed at a very high rate on the money that I earn, and so that.
So you're very fine with the compensation is what I'm doing.
Well, because that's the thing, I'm just paying more to the government because I'm considered running my own business to provide this service, but yet I have very few write-offs that I can, and so I kind of tried okay, could I absorb some of the costs of the committee work and use that as a write-off? But my write-off level is about 10% of whatever I'm claiming, which is, not wonderful. So there's that to think about as well. But if you want me to leave, I'll leave.
I'll leave. I'll get you to leave just for formalities. I think it's kind of proper.
Bye, Trace. Please come back. Please come back.
Yeah. So sorry, everyone.
So just to add to that part, I think to maybe add to Rocky's part, we're hiring for a position. The position's value is at this. We're not hiring a person per se, and so that's what Tracy gets into. I'm compensated well because I have this and this. No, this position requires a job to be done, and that job should have a job description, and that job should be paid X, and it shouldn't be less than other committee people who work in similar jobs.
Well, it's a little awkward because, just for everyone that's new, we had two committees that combined, and so the money that they had, I'll wait for a second till this goes away, because I know you can. Okay, so the two committees that combined was, it's now called the Human Rights, but it was the Equity Citizen Committee, and the, I forget it. Excuse me, I forget the other one. It was the disability sector committee. So they combined those two. So the money is just combined, but there was the idea behind that was that there was going to be the same amount of work, right? So and then there's of course these other committees. So it's very different depending on what the work that they're doing. So it's very hard to judge that. And all I am given is the budget that I'm given to work with. So that's all we have is the 84,500. What I suggest that what we do for this year, Tracy feels very comfortable with what she's given. She's watching what she has to pay on the other side. But that might change depending on who we have sitting at the table. And I think next year we look at an increase like we would every year. We haven't been able to do that because there was a deduction in our budget. So we've had to fight last few years for all of you new people, really fight to get this budget to where it is. So and I know that there's a few things that we really want to make sure that we're doing on this committee. So I'm hoping that we support Tracy right now with keeping the budget the same, but I know there is some questions. So hands are raised. Callum, I think that's you, right?
Yeah, and not a question necessarily, but I don't disagree with your assessment counselor. If only for the 1 year period. I mean,
Yeah.
certainly getting the budget we asked for was fantastic, and we have thought, at least, in the conversations I've been a part of with Tracy and Jess and Jessie, when we were talking about this from a budget perspective, we certainly want to see some of those initiatives that we haven't been able to do for the last couple of years due to resource constraints come to fruition this year, right? Those community events and making sure the cards are available and being able to be agile to what the community needs given the focus on safety these days. So it's just me chiming in to say I don't disagree with your assessment. For a 1 year period, I'm okay to keep things as they are, and her salary where it is, to see what that can allow us to do in the other strategic areas that we're focusing on.
And then next year we can take a review. If we weren't spending in one area, we can maybe look at, as we're increasing her numbers, we can look at those areas.
Absolutely.
So the minutes should reflect that that's our intention.
Yeah, okay, perfect. That very good point, Rocky. Thank you for adding that in. Yeah. Carrie?
So I think I recall this number was 90,000, like my first go around. So we're already back $7,500 or $5,500. No?
No.
Okay, old memories.
I don't remember.
Yeah, okay, no kidding, sorry.
Oh, thank you.
I know, but maybe that's the ask for next year anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, no. So if there's no other questions, I'll call Tracy back in. Sure.
I think she noted maybe in an email, how many hours she actually works. So I understand it's $55,000 would be her compensation.
Right.
But she's not working 40 hours a week, is that correct? Or is it about 20 hours a week she may have said?
So it's contract work. So it's really hard because sometimes I'm calling her, giving her more work. Other times there won't be so much work. When we're having an event, there's lots of work, right? So it's really hard to judge your hours. She did the best she can. I am hoping she's going to be a little bit busier this year because I'm actually hoping we have some tangible money to do some stuff with now, right? So that's the hope. Does that answer that?
Yeah, I think she had mentioned that maybe it was looking, it sort of added up to about, $50 an hour, which I think is quite good.
Yeah.
Based on my experience, I worked in nonprofit for many years. And so just comparing some of the salaries that I worked with other nonprofits and doing similar work, it seems, fairly reasonable. I just wanted to put that out there for context.
That's great.
It seems like a very reasonable. And then in terms of, some of the discussion we're having around cutting costs, maybe around some of the other line items, maybe folks right now don't know, and we should wait for Tracy to get back. But in terms of the who to call cards, I'm curious if there's a way to maybe partner with some groups like 211 Manitoba, for example, produces very similar outreach cards, holds all of that data. And there could be a way to maybe save on some of that, because I think there was a note that was taking up a lot of Tracy's time in terms of travel and mailing. But I know that there are groups that work in community that do very similar work that have resources to do that. It could be an opportunity.
That's something I'd like to bring Tracy in because she's part of those discussions more than I am. I do know that they're heavily used, they're heavily asked for, and we have thought about asking, which has an interest in it, the Human Rights Committee as well, that has a budget. So there might be some opportunities, and we have discussed that, but Tracy would be the best one to have in the room for that. So if we're done with her contract stuff, we're okay with that. I'm gonna bring her in, and then if you wanna ask that question, you can. Okay, perfect. Yeah, thanks. We're just telling her to come in. Thanks, everybody. It's usually common practice that we ask the person to leave for discussing their salaries.
Councilor, just to advise, I have a 1:30 just down the street, so I'll probably drop dead time of 1:25 for me.
Okay, so we got.
But I don't know if that affects quorum or anything. Okay.
Okay, so just a quick question of who do I call cards that you need to have, and then I'd like to move on because we do have some people having to leave. Okay, just.
Yeah, we were just sort of talking about some of the line items. And I know that we've sort of loosely talked about this, but in terms of, you know, where we can potentially save since you are working with a limited budget, I know that you had mentioned that doing some of the outreach around the who to call cards it's labor intensive with the mailing and delivering and whatnot. And I had mentioned, I know that 211 does very similar work. They hold all of that data. They can do the printing in-house and have dedicated staff. Wondering if you've had conversations with them about maybe taking some of that work.
I never have, although all of the information I do run it through 211 to make sure that it matches as well as.
Are you compiling it yourself?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's,
it seems like something you probably shouldn't have to do.
It's a big job, and I will tell you that the last time I did it, I subcontracted some help and paid out my own pocket because I thought otherwise I'll never get this done. It's like to go through those and compare each one, and a lot of times you have to phone the organization, like if something doesn't match up to what they have online, they're a lot to maintain.
And I do want to say what's really important is even the police and social service agency says a lot of the women that use those cards, they keep them in their boots. It's like sometimes they have to hide it away from the people that they are with. So it really is critical information for them to have a handout. That's not just about having it on the computer or on a phone. That has to be a little handout that they can keep hidden. So yeah, so that's a good connection. We'll make sure we look at it.
I did a lot of work and worked for 211 previously, so I know that all the time that you're spending putting together that information, there's probably a way to eliminate that work for you, and so it's more efficient.
Well, and the other thing too is we used to have a graphic designer dedicated to do all the committees, graphic design work and stuff for no cost to any of the committees. And that woman retired a little over a year ago. And so now we have to pay for graphic design services, even though I think we can still get them done cheaper here, like through the city's communication department. That also raises the cost of the card production. But also, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Winnipeg Outreach Network, that they produce a big folded up, it's like a map. I give them credit because it is a lot of work, but it is also kind of a confusing thing to look at, like in my opinion. But they have done 2 versions of that, I would say in the last 10 years, probably because it's so much work to do. In the original one that they did, apparently we gave them some money to produce that because it would have been before we were doing the who do I call cards. So I have wondered if that's an option too and could help them to produce that map more often if we went that route instead. I will give them credit, their maps are a lot more full.
So what I'm gonna do is maybe we can keep on that, we'll talk about it a little bit further, just to keep us moving on. Because we're still on the operating budget, so I'm gonna ask that, can somebody move the operating budget?
Motion to
Carrie?
accept.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion is carried. Okay. So now we're gonna move on to Winnipeg Committee for Safety Work Plan. And we will work on the who do I call cards, because I think it's important. I just want to make sure that we have quorum for the votes here. Okay, so let's talk about the work plan.
Okay, so the work plan, the format has not really changed hugely compared to last year, or I think I've used this format maybe for the last 2 years now, and so it does just group the work into community outreach stuff, education and training, partnerships, and working groups, and then how we evaluate ourselves. So the cards are the first item. We've already talked about those. The plan to, although I don't know, I've voiced this before, I still have some concerns about how our multi-year strategic plan works, but for us to work on those items and engage with council and whatever departments we need to, project teams, stakeholders, and look at how we can best address the efforts of things that come our way. So that covers that. And then we're also looking at the stuff that we provide through our website. The website also needs to be updated for sure. And then the advisement that we might provide to council or any other committees or departments. And that's roughly most of our work. Our education and awareness is to try and stay abreast of what's happening with community safety and well-being initiatives here in Winnipeg, as well as provincially and federally. So that's partly why I send you those updates every Friday of what's happened in the media. I try to stick as much as I can to things that are happening right here in Winnipeg. And it's frankly, sometimes I can't send you guys all the stuff that are happening. It's too much, but it just goes to show there's a lot of stuff happening in
I love those even for me to keep me updated. So thank you, Tracy, for all the work on that.
Yeah, so I do try to stick to the topics that are in our strategic plan. So if I'm sending you stuff that's about homelessness, substance use, mental health, anything to do with our last year, we were supposed to be working on transportation and public issues around that. And so I tried to send information about things that were happening with the bus updates and so yeah, and then any other stuff that I find that I think could be interesting. And I also welcome if any of you have anything you want me to share with the rest of the group, just send it to me. And so that kind of awareness that we're working on, I would like to see us do more things of a nature of public outreach, hosting events. Those things could happen in conjunction with like Kayla and Greg's work, for example. It could be, I want to go back and finish off the work that we started with the neighborhood watch captains, because that's languished for too long, but we just didn't have any money to get back together. And then also look at the work of the Winnipeg Safe Cities Initiative that no longer has any funding. And there's a strategic plan that I've mentioned to you that I am going to send to you now. I just felt like I was bombarding you with all this paperwork that we had to take care of first. So we're going to look at some stuff in that plan that we can do around the safety of women and girls in public places. So that, you know, and that work is a little more work than just coming to the meetings that we do. I think we could work on strengthening our partnerships with, like, we do have probably more partnerships than people realize, because we work with the police service, Manitoba Justice, other social agencies, the Canadian Centre for Safer Communities, other volunteer organizations. So there's a lot, and we can work to strengthen that. And also I'd like to see us do some more working group stuff. And one of the first ones I think we might want to tackle is we've been requested by an original member of the Winnipeg Committee for Safety from way back in 1999 to develop an anti-hate crime policy for the city. And we've never done that before. I am interested to do it. And when I talked to the woman whose name is Ruth Lademan, she said when they first formed the committee back in 99, that was mostly what they were doing, was policy development for council around safety issues. So I feel like if you guys are willing, we could tackle it. I like Jade, you probably would have to help us with this, but I think from what we're seeing in the media and what's happening, not just here in Winnipeg, it's happening around the world. The hate crime is something that, that there should be a policy about that. I've looked at some other cities and what they're doing on it, and I'll send you some examples of that. But we're seeing it here locally, so we should be, addressing that if that's what citizens are looking for. And our evaluation, as I said, most of it is informal, but it's still coming from the people that we're working with and trying to serve. And I don't get any bad feedback on anything we're doing, so I think that's good. And I think that, yeah, as we can do more work and get more partners that we're regularly dealing with, then yeah, we can get feedback from them for what we're working on.
Okay,
So that's the plan.
any questions about the work plan? Daniel?
Just one concern I have, and that is that if we embark on an initiative such as the one that Ruth Lehman is suggesting, we want to make sure that we we don't duplicate what's already being done by other levels of government. Make sure as well we don't embarrass anybody. That there are some people doing some good work when it comes to that, and we got to make ourselves aware of that before we announce a bold new initiative suggested by somebody who was on this so many years ago. But that's all I would say about that.
But I agree, Rocky, and I think it would also be a good way for us to, even as a bit of an experiment, look at, can we bring some other citizens in to inform us on this and put their 2 cents in, that, that they would be more knowledgeable than us, and yeah, like that's what I think. We wouldn't want to just be so bold to think we can come up with a good plan, and we're not talking about the people that are actually experiencing that and working to address it in their own communities or their own organizations. So I think it would be, I don't think it would be something that would have to be laborious, but to get a group of people together in the room to discuss it and hear what we should from the people that are trying to address it now, that should be where we start.
So Tracy, thank you for that. So when we talk about partnerships, I believe this committee had at one time the WPS sitting on this committee.
Well, yeah, we still do. It's Inspector Rial. He just couldn't come today.
He's actually in the Zoom meeting.
Oh, is he? Oh, okay. He showed up.
Sorry, I just came late today. I was at another meeting.
Yeah, because I was gonna say he had an overlap.
We appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Okay, so that's good. That's important to have those folks at the table for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in all fairness to everybody, they didn't have to provide anything today just because I wanted to make sure we were doing our work plan and everything, getting through this stuff today. And I know usually, Melanie, usually the police do a little report, community services does a little report. So yeah, usually we hear a little bit from other people. The province is in the room too here. So usually we do hear from a few sectors on what's going on in the community. But today we had to just shorten it up because we have a lot of work to get past here. So
Heaven knows this inspector can talk.
yeah. Oh, you're gonna be in trouble for that.
Well, he's not there. I don't see him.
No. Okay, so we're gonna, if everyone's okay, I'd like to move on from the work plan. Can I have somebody move the work plan? Okay, okay, we're gonna have Melanie move the work plan. Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion's carried. All right, now we're gonna move on to the proposed amendments to the Winnipeg Committee of Safety Terms of Reference.
And so I have sent you some versions of this and provided the history of what's been happening with this. And we've almost a year ago started working on updating this. It was the first update ever to the committee terms of reference, and the committee's now heading into its 27th year. So normally it's something you would update annually, but that never happened. So we approved this in, I think, May of last year. And it went to, how our work goes is that whatever we're voting on today, it goes to the Executive Policy Committee. They provide approval, and then council, rubber stamps it if they need to. So when it went to EPC in October, they just said there's some language flags, and we would have to correct those before they could approve it. So it was a bit of work to find out what the language flags were and look at, there was also a misstep of not presenting the old terms of reference to them with the new one. So we will resubmit it again. We've made those corrections. Most of them were minor, as I mentioned, that nothing affects any discussion of the way we operate or what our mandate is or what we're going to do. It was just kind of like one was a wording around using the mayor instead of and I just took that language from the other terms of references of other committees because they are all a lot newer than ours, and thought if I keep that language the same, it would make it easier. But so just minor things like that, changing some wording around those. So I think I'm confident that Jade and I have had enough back and forth on this now that it'll pass this time, and then we'll start working with our new one. And not wait 27 years to do the next update.
I just did let the mayor know that, I wanted it to them to look at it before. Sometimes, things get in front of them and they don't necessarily take a look at it until the item comes up. But, just for them to look at anything before, if they have any questions or concerns, to share that with me prior to the meeting. So hopefully we have no problems going forward, right?
Yeah.
We are the oldest committee, so, and it's so surprising we haven't looked at our terms of reference, but the oldest committee, so we have that to be proud of, but also means sometimes some work involved in making sure we kept up to date.
But I feel too that, and we've had some discussions this year and had the mayor come and sit at one of our meetings and so for council to have a full understanding of what does this committee do, what's their work, how are they made up? When we're coming to them and asking for more money or someone's deciding to cut our budget, when those terms of references are not reflecting how we actually function or what we're doing, then that makes that decision making a lot murkier. So I feel now if, we've got it all spelled out and all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, then when someone's looking at what do we do, including us, it's all here.
All right, so any questions regarding the terms of reference? Seeing none, can I have a mover for that? Jesse? Oh, Callan, I think Callan moved it. Okay, all in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, so now we're done. We're done with most of the stuff that we needed to get done. I know some people have to leave, but I can provide a few minutes. Does anybody want to share anything, information about anything? Quick update? We do have a little bit of time if somebody wants to do that. Oh, do we? Sorry.
Yeah.
We do have a verbal update. I apologize. Okay, verbal update.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in looking at our strategic plan, which kind of one of the things that I don't like about it is when we originally designed it, we looked at what were, when we went to the community and gained their feedback and looked at what are the issues that are concerning you most in Winnipeg. I don't think we got any of that wrong, but I just didn't like the idea that we would only take one issue and work on that for a year and then the rest of them were either, falling into the rearview mirror or still waiting for their opportunity. I would have liked to see us kind of keep all of those things, which is hard, but it's only 5 of them, and be aware of all of them and try and address all of them as maybe, something comes to the fore and we can say, hey, we're knowledgeable about all these things. But I was not the coordinator then, so I just agreed to what the rest of the group wanted. So this year, what we're supposed to work on is lack of opportunities and activities. And so most of the feedback around that from the public was about, not having enough things to support youth. The focus looked at talking about youth and gang activities, increase in crime committed by youth and the problems around that. So not that it was completely youth focused, it was just that was something most community members we talked about felt. So I feel like it's unfortunate, but as with the city over the past few years has had to make a lot of cuts to things in the budget and so some of the support that they have been giving to youth serving organizations has dwindled or, been completely removed. And so I don't know, for us as a group to be going to the city and saying, put more money back into those things, we could say it, but if there's no money to do it, I don't feel any council wants to cut those things from their budget. Like, I think they know the value of them. So if it's had to happen, it's unfortunate, but something that, especially when you're talking about safety in public places is, the Winnipeg Safe City Initiatives plan that I mentioned, that plan is very there's a lot of documentation in there. But it's all looking at different groups of women in our city and what are their feelings about safety in public spaces as they're going through their day and moving around in the city. And it was surprising to me, some of the things I found out. And I did do some in-person sessions this summer with two groups, one of them being newcomer women, and the other was from the 2SLBGQ community. And there's, that it's an overlooked thing that, that just women and the problems that they have to try and get around and live their life in the city and be safe. And I heard things I didn't expect to hear, but I am going to share that plan with all of you so that you can look at. Kayla, you've seen it already, but it's something that we could do some work on as a group, and it does fall into that lack of opportunities and activities. It is a little bit specifically more to women, but one of the group of newcomers that I talked to was newcomer youth that were all of an age of late high school to early first year university, and that was very eye-opening as well. So I think, like, I'll flesh it out a little bit more. I'm going to send you all the plan first before we have any discussion on it, but it could be linked into this priority of lack of opportunity.
And just on that, some of you might remember that we did do a kind of a scoping study with the Winnipeg Committee for Safety, not the Winnipeg Committee for Safety, but the UN Safe Cities Initiative. And we did do focus groups with women in the community. And, a lot of the stuff is the same things. And transit was a theme, but a lot of the things we heard were very similar. And one of my hope is to take that information and present that to the community. And we're working on how we're going to do that together, because of course there's always bridging the gap between this committee and the other committee that I do work on, because they're very similar. Safety for women is safety for everyone here in Winnipeg. So that's what we're going to be working on under that strategic plan part.
Can I just add something?
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, who was that?
So I was just thinking, like with each year having a focus, I don't think that necessarily means that it's to the exclusion of the other 4 items. I think we can have a focus on looking at lack of opportunity, but that doesn't mean that we ignore the transportation issues, the addiction issues, the homelessness issues. These are all interrelated, intersectional issues. And so while I think we can say this year we're going to focus specifically on opportunities for youth, we're not necessarily, at least in my purview, not excluding the other things that would be relevant in supporting that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And those are things that we'll take a deeper dive in as we probably progress.
I'm just wondering if the inspector has some stats that could add to those anecdotal comments. Like, what are those criminal numbers? Like, are we seeing an increase in this category or that category? And then, we might be able to then share that to the city's citizens on behalf of, WPS, and using us as a vehicle for them.
The hard thing with that, though, is that sometimes your raw numbers or even your percentage increases don't measure an actual change. They measure a strategic change in priority by the police, right? So you might be spending a lot of time and energy one year saying transit is the issue. We need to get on the buses. We need to make these arrests. We need to interact with these folks. It doesn't necessarily tell you it increased 300% from last year, just that the arrests were different. The strategy was different.
And I think Callan has a question too.
Well, and just to add to that, I'm entirely supportive of data-driven decision-making, but there's also, right, a lot of it is perception by the public, right? Just because we could demonstrate with data that, X crime is decreasing in these neighborhoods, what I think we generally are seeing in the news and in the sentiment and in certainly the strategic priorities of even what our governments are doing, we're challenging the perception of safety in the city. And a lot of people feel like the city has lost something in regards to safety lately. So being sensitive to that as we work through our priorities as well, I think is going to be really important.
Very important comment, because I represent downtown and inner city, right? And then there's the perception of safety, right? That some people get for, you know, our downtown isn't safe, but is it actually a reality or perception, right? So it's a really good conversation to have. And then also on the data, when we looked at the surveys and stuff, a lot of women do not report, right? So if we're getting data from the Winnipeg Police Service, it might not be a lot of people are not reporting. So you got to make sure you use data, you know, when you can, and it helps inform you, but it's also very important to remember, you know, the people that were, you know, the cohorts or the groups of people that we're looking at in terms of safety. So great comments. Okay, well, I think on that was a really great discussion. Hopefully we get more in depth in our less formal meeting. So for now, I think, did we move it? Did we move her? We haven't moved it yet. Okay. Can I have somebody move the verbal updates of the strategic plan? Okay, Jesse. Okay, all in favor? Okay, perfect. Motion is carried. Well, that's it for our first meeting. I can have somebody move to adjourn before you go, Sherry. Sherry, move to adjourn. Okay, well, thanks everybody. We'll see you at the next meeting. Stay warm.
Thank you.